Hey everyone, welcome to Listen, Love, Connect. I'm Savannah Paul Fox, your host, and today's guest is Sumari Prabara. Today we will be learning about how to regulate your nervous system. Let's head over to Somi and get started.
Listen, Love, Connect is brought to you by Exceptional Heroes.
So today, Somi and I are going to be talking about how to regulate our nervous system. But before we can teach you on how to do that, we got to go through what are the happy chemicals and what are they and what they do for us. So Somi, there are 4 happy chemicals in our body. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, that's correct. We have 4 happy chemicals. Interestingly enough, these are some of the things that I wish, even when I was growing up, that we were taught in school. Even when I took my first Psych 101 class, or even actually, I don't think through any of my undergrad or graduate program, did they talk about your happy chemicals, which I have now labeled your anatomy of happiness.
Yeah.
So there are 4 of them, like you said. And so the first one is dopamine. And dopamine is like your reward pleasure chemical. It's the chemical that's released when you feel rewarded, you feel motivated, you feel successful, you feel pleasure. Okay. Interesting enough, your dopamine area, that part of your brain, is the one that's affected when you become addicted to chemicals like substances. So It alters your pleasure area. So that's why people have the addiction and have the tolerance, because they're wanting to feel pleasure and they can't get it through natural ways anymore because that area has been affected. The second one is serotonin. And interesting enough, this may resonate with a lot of people. So your serotonin chemical is your mood stabilizer. It's the chemical that helps your moods to kind of be regulated and be stable. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, all depression medication is a serotonin uptake.
I was just going to ask you.
Right. So what happens is, however many years ago, somebody found a way to chemically induce an increase of serotonin, and they put it in a pill. So when people go, whether it's Zoloft, whether it's Lexapro, any of the depression medications, it's a serotonin uptake. So essentially what they're trying to do is use a pill and chemically induce the increase of serotonin in your brain, because that helps with your mood. The other thing to know about serotonin is that, depending on the research you see, 70 to 90% of your serotonin is created in your gut. Wow. And your gut is considered your second brain. Wow, so if you have an unhealthy gut, almost always you're going to find that not only is your serotonin low, and your mood is destabilized. Mm-hmm.
And we'll be talking about how to fix that later, right?
Yes. Yep, okay. We will. The third one is oxytocin. And oxytocin, I call it the love hormone. It's, as someone that breastfed my son, the best way I can explain it, it's when you breastfeed, it releases oxytocin and creates a bond between you and your child. So you feel all like, so that's what creates that like secure bond. Not to say you can't release the other ways to release oxytocin, but that's one active way. Cuddles, hugs, a lot of physical touch releases oxytocin. So I call, it's often called this feel-good hormone.
Or I saw cuddle hormone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's just the hormone that's released that makes you feel lovey and double, bubbly inside, and creates a bond and the whole nine. You can even get a release of oxytocin from a pet, because I know that you do a lot of assisted, animal therapy. pets are, a huge thing. I know that when I worked in an adolescent psychiatric facility years ago, we had a dog as part of, to assist with therapy.
Mhm.
And when the kids will come in and they would rub the dog, there's an exchange that's happening, because a lot of times as a therapist, you can't rub the client.
Right.
Yeah, that would be,
That
you
makes
talk
like a
about
turn.
the boundaries there. So, having a pet, whether it's Monroe or even with the exceptional heroes, that
Yeah.
element of rubbing something or cuddling or holding something releases oxytocin. And
And I
then the
think they have
last,
like brush therapy, so stuff like that.
yeah.
But the fourth one, which is my favorite one, and it's only because it's crazy how endorphins work.
Uh-huh.
And that's why it's my favorite one, because it's like crazy how you can be like so energized and get hurt, but you don't feel it because of that chemical.
It's your pain reliever.
Yes.
Literally, endorphins is it's the thing that helps to mask your pain. And it's not just physical pain. So I used to be a runner. I know that a lot of people talk about the runner's high. And once you came down, you realize that your body is in a lot of pain. And so that's why a lot of athletes, especially, they need a lot of ice baths and massages and things of that sort, because as they're exercising, doing their athletic activity, what happens is endorphins are released. So it masks the pain a lot of times. So that's when you will have people that, play through a huge injury, and the pain doesn't hit them until they stop moving. And then they realize, like, oh my gosh, like there's a friend of mine that I think they broke some bone or something.
Oh my
but
God.
they were able to finish a soccer match with a broken bone.
Wow.
So, that, like I said, the endorphins become the pain reliever, even for emotional pain as well. So those are your four, happy chemicals or happy hormones. Some people say, use either word, whether chemicals or hormones, however you want to look at it. So the other thing that we want to talk about is, like, what specifically do the happy chemicals do for us? And we kind of talked about that already. It's like I said, with dopamine, it's your pleasure, your motivations, chemical. So whenever you're feeling motivated, you're feeling inspired, you're feeling pleasure, that area of your brain is being activated, and it's releasing this chemical to encourage you or help you continue in whatever it is you're doing. With the other ones, and again, I feel like I'm being a bit redundant here, is because I kind of explained it simultaneously. Whether it's the oxytocin, the serotonin, and the endorphins, endorphins, for instance, helps to alleviate stress.
Yes.
So if you are very stressed, and we're getting ready to talk about ways to increase your endorphins or release your happy chemicals, when you are able to do things every day to activate your happy chemicals, you find that you are mentally well.
Okay.
So it's not just a thing about just being healthy. You find mental wellness is a state of, like, it's not the roller coaster feeling.
Yeah.
Today you're up, then tomorrow you're down, and it's really highs and lows. It's almost like you're able to have highs, but you never get very low. You kind of are able to because you're doing things every day to stay regulated.
And it could also make you feel fulfilled, right? Within your
Yes.
body and your mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, essentially, like I said, it's the anatomy of happiness. When you are actively doing everything to activate each one of these areas, you generally feel happy, regardless of what is happening. You realize what is in your control, what you can, do. it actually gives you even more clarity. If something is happening and you need to act, you have a clear mind to be able to, to do whatever the thing is. So one of the other things that is interesting, and I think you and I don't know if we've gone into depth about this, and let's see if you remember, how does the brain develop?
I don't know, Somi, how does the brain?
So the brain develops back to front.
Okay.
So it's your brain stem or your body brain, which is back here. And then the middle part, which is where your limbic system is your feeling brain. And then the last place to develop, which doesn't develop till almost you're like 26, sometimes closer to 30, is your prefrontal cortex, which is your thinking brain. So again, body brain, feeling brain, thinking brain. Okay. Having said that, because this is the last place to develop, your happy chemicals are not situated here. They're situated in your limbic system, which is actually in addition to the body brain, the oldest part of your brain. So it's like the primitive part of your brain. So I don't want to say either chimpanzees may have a prefrontal cortex, but there are no other animals, no other species in the entire world that have a prefrontal cortex. They have the limbic and the body, but they do not. So obviously we are an evolution from, monkeys, chimpanzees, however you want to look at it, but they do not have this element of the brain. They just have the limbic and the body brain. So our happy chemicals are situated in our limbic area, which is not surprising because that's our feeling brain. Yeah. So a lot of the things associated with our mental wellness is if we're activating this part of our brain, we find that we have more time spent being mentally well as opposed to being just mentally healthy or mentally ill.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there are ways to increase your happy hormones. And actually, you may want to talk a little bit about, and I think, I believe Savannah is going to put, the website. But there are ways to know when you're deficient.
Yes.
In these happy hormones. So maybe, Savannah, you can give for each one, maybe 2 things for each one that indicate deficiency.
Well, when I was looking into it and reading the article you sent me, which again, I'll post it down below, a lot of them kind of intertwined with each other. So some of them were like low self-esteem, lack of sleep, feeling hopeless, mood swings, just a lot had to do with sleeping and how you felt about yourself. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so what you'll find, like Savannah said, is there's going to be quite a bit of overlap. So sometimes when you're deficient in dopamine and oxytocin, like oxytocin, when you're deficient in that, you feel very disconnected from people, even people you love, loved ones. You feel disengaged and disconnected. With dopamine, with serotonin, with endorphins, you'll find a lot of mood issues, whether depression or hopelessness or anxiety. Insomnia is another big thing. With dopamine and serotonin, you also find that you have low energy. So because remember, dopamine is your motivation area. So whenever you feel a lack of motivation, there's a huge chance you're deficient in dopamine and serotonin. Very rarely that's not the case. So again, being aware being very in tune with your body and your mind and noticing when these things are coming up are very key, because they are actually natural ways to increase your happy hormones. So,
sorry, go ahead.
no, yeah, I was just gonna say, maybe you want to start and indicate some ways, for you, if you could personalize it, that you can increase your dopamine, your oxytocin, your serotonin, and your endorphins.
So before I do that, I want to say that me and Somi have said before in the past that your mind and your physical health are not one and the same, but
right.
You have to
They're
take
connected.
care of both in order to be fulfilled and fulfill these happy chemicals. So a few of them one of them is meditation, and I know a lot of people have stereotypes about meditation, but it's just breathing. So you can, me and Somi have spoke about this before, breathing 4 in, 8 out is a great method to use. We also have a video on ways to breathe, and you can check that out. But breathing is a huge one. Taking a walk. Yesterday, my mom and I got a little stressed with work, so we walked around our building a few times. It's hot out here, but we definitely did some walking. So some physical exercises is always good. What else? So being creative. I know for my family, we like to paint and do things like that. You can also be creative in just dancing. I know Somi and her son do a lot of dancing videos. Yep. What do you have to add to that?
So are we just sticking with dopamine, or we're talking about all the happy chemicals? Which ones are you focusing on at the moment?
All of them.
Okay. So, she mentioned some things from a dopamine standpoint. I would say this, like exercise is something that covers all 4.
Yeah.
You're exercising a minimum of 30 minutes a day. You will activate dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and serotonin. Dancing, as you mentioned, is another one thing that activates all 4 chemicals. I do want to make a slight correction so that people don't come at you and oh my gosh. So breath work and meditation, there are different types of meditation. So meditation is not always just breath work. So there's breath work, and then there are other, because you can have water meditation, you can have walk-in meditation, you can have guided meditation, you can have transcendental meditation. So there are different types of meditation, and depending on the type and what you're trying to achieve is what your body. But overall, whether you're meditating or you're doing breath work, you're bringing awareness and a stillness and a quietness to your mind and your body, which will help to activate this part of your brain, which is where your happy chemicals are. You mentioned being creative, whether you're painting, you're creating music, you're dancing, you're cooking, any form of creativity. If you're a fashion designer, you're an actor, anytime you are activating your creative skills, you are going to release and activate your happy chemicals. Another thing that helps with activating happy chemicals is what you eat.
Yeah.
So foods that are high in its L-tyrosine. So bananas, some people don't realize this. If you find that you have depressive symptoms, if you eat more bananas, it will increase your serotonin levels. And they're really good for your gut. Another key thing is probiotics. Whether you take a supplement or you eat foods that are high in probiotics. So kimchi, sauerkraut, pickles, yogurt, not yogurt, processed yogurt though. Kombucha, which is a fermented tea. There are different ways that you can get your probiotics in your system, and your probiotics are really good for your gut health and increase your serotonin levels. So even eggs, another good one. So essentially, if you're eating healthy,
Mhm.
you're going to be adding both prebiotics and probiotics to your gut, which are really good for your gut health and increase your serotonin levels.
And would
They also
calm help?
increase dopamine. Say it again.
Would calm help?
Oh, yes. Calm is actually a magnesium supplement that has
Okay.
both vitamin D and vitamin C at times. And it's really good. A lot of people don't realize that they're deficient. The key main deficiencies are vitamin D, magnesium, and sometimes B6 and B12. But vitamin D is huge, especially during the winter months. And if you live further up. So another thing that activates your happy chemicals is getting sufficient sunlight, being out in nature. So if you're out and you get 15 minutes of direct sunlight, your body naturally will create the amount of vitamin D you need for that day. Obviously, the more, the better. And vitamin D is really good about helping with increase your dopamine, increase your serotonin as well.
Yeah.
Being out in nature is another, key thing. So whether you're taking a walk, whether you're hiking, whether you're on the beach, anytime you get to be out and listen to the birds. Yesterday, my son and I were out and about through New York. We went to a park, we listened to birds, we watched squirrels. He likes to hug trees. Hugging a tree releases oxytocin.
Be like Timothy Green and just go out in the sun and absorb it.
Yeah, an interesting story that I think you may really get a kick out of. Yesterday at Washington Square Park, we went and just had some time with some new acquaintances. We met Kate Hudson and Zach Braff.
Wow.
And I know that Kate Hudson's mom, Golden Hawn, does Mind Up, which I know has, you had a bit of connection to. So that was interesting.
Yes.
And Mara and I just, we watched Cheaper by the Dozen when it originally came out. And
Yes.
he wants to watch Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I don't think it's appropriate for him. And Zach Braff is in that. So it's very interesting because we're here in, the park, and, Kate Hudson and her daughter, I think her daughter's name is either Riley or something of that sort. We're just like, they're running around, and it's like, but that's New York. That's one of the reasons people love New York, is that you get to be, and nobody's going to interrupt you. And, nobody was like, oh my gosh, give me your autograph. So anyhow, so for somebody that is, very celebrity focused, that could have been a happy release for them to see somebody that they're like, oh, that's my favorite actress, or that's somebody I like, or I just watched their movie. So they're different. Again, the idea is you can naturally create your anatomy of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need external things or chemicals to do that.
Right.
But you have to be intentional about it.
Yeah.
So, I know that working with a lot of clients, I've told them, I said, listen, here's the reality. The opposite is you're going to feel horrible, or you're going to feel crap, and you don't want to have all those fluctuations in moods or whatever. So instead, because the people want to think like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. And I'm like, okay. So here's the thing. You can either feel how you're feeling currently and continue to feel that way, which you felt for years, which you say you don't want to feel, or you just are more intentional doing these things every day. Yes. So even cold exposure helps to activate your happy hormones. I don't know, a lot of people are new to this. And basically you can do it where for 2 to 3 minutes. So like, let's say you go in the shower, you do your hot water. So the last 2 minutes of your shower, you turn it to the coldest temperature possible. And then you stand under the water, especially trying to get your head and your neck, and you try to breathe, while you're there. The other thing you can do is just putting your hand under cold water is of, you know, and just letting the water. So a lot of times when people are distressed, like if I have a client that calls me and they're, or texts me and they're distressed, one of the first thing I tell them to bring them back into their body, because being distressed takes you out of your body, and you get more into your mind, and so bring you back in the present moment. If you do cold exposure, it automatically brings you into the present and regulates you so that you can now do the breathing or get outside or any of the other things that will help you to even be more regulated and stable. So I encourage everybody to think of it not as a task. And a lot of these things we already do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're outside. So it's like, you know, but I do understand that when people are depressed or have depressive, and let me rephrase, they're not depressed, they have depressive symptoms or are feeling symptoms of depression, they don't want to go anywhere. They don't want to go outside. Okay. There are other things, your food.
Yeah.
When we are feeling depression, a lot of times we want to reach for comfort things and things that actually are decreasing our serotonin and killing the good bacteria. And so all I'm saying is, like, if you like eggs, you know, eat some eggs. If you like bananas, eat some bananas. Almonds are really good. Nuts, walnuts, almonds are really good from a gut and serotonin level. Fish, leafy veg. So I know, and people are like, well, I don't want any of that stuff when I'm when I don't feel good. And I'm like, okay, but there are all these other different ways. Listening to music, not sad, you know, but music, it could be calming music, but it could also be uplifting music, can help to, you know, activate those happy chemicals. So again, just trying to find in the dopamine area, in the endorphin area, in the serotonin and oxytocin area, even if it's just one thing that you say, I'm going to commit to doing this every day to ensure that I'm staying in the space that I want to be, which is happy. You know, who doesn't want to be happy?
Hey, right. And it's just, you also have to be creative doing it, because sometimes, like, I hate exercise. So when I need it to be happy, I find that riding my bike is a better option. So try and be creative, which also brings up your endorphins. It says it brings up being creative brings up your endorphins. So that helps one of them as you're trying to figure out how to be happy with your other happy chemicals, if that makes sense.
Right. So to date, I've never heard anybody that initially you may not want to do it, but once you do it, because these chemicals are released, you feel better and you feel accomplished. You know, I hear people always like, oh, I don't want to run today. I don't want to exercise. And there are a lot of people, I tell people, take away this concept of it, because even the concept of exercise it's become very task oriented, and it becomes like, it's not motivating. So what I tell people is just movement, any movement. So whether you're cleaning the house or because we've become very sedentary, they say that like the average American sits for like 10 to 11 hours a day. All you're doing is, I say people, like, if you have a very sedentary work or lifestyle, or whatever, every hour, just try and move, like just move your body. And it doesn't have to be anything strenuous, just move. Now, I think even with the Apple Watch or the, Kenneth Cole watch, it has this thing where you can program it's time to get up. So if you're sitting too much, it'll buzz on your hand, like time to move around for, and it's not a long time. Sometimes it'll tell you to move around for like 3 to 5 minutes, but just getting your body not to be so sedentary helps. Yes. But like I said, a lot of times when we are having any mood issues or whatever the case may be, the go-to is to become very sedentary. Now, that's not to be confused with sleep and rest, which is also important.
Yes.
In hacking those chemicals. There are times we are a hustle and bustle society, and sometimes what we do need is more sleep and more rest, where we're not on the go all the time.
Well, I feel like this was a very needed topic. We went over a lot of points. Like you said in the beginning, you're not really taught these things in school. So I feel like this was very helpful. Leave comments down below on what you do to up your happy hormones. And thanks, Somi, for having this topic with me.
Thank you, Savannah, and we'll see you next time.
In today's video, you learned about the 4 happy chemicals, how to increase them, and where they're located. Thank you guys for watching. But wait, make sure to visit and follow these Instagram accounts. Check out my website, exceptionalheroes.com, to learn more about my patent pending therapeutic devices and to buy some Exceptional Heroes merch. See you guys next time, and always remember to listen, love, connect. Bye.